The control that the Democrats had at 58, 59, depending upon how you count it, votes that they had there in the Senate was brought down considerably to just a little bit over the majority of 51 to 53 now in the Senate. Still, though, in the hands of the Democrats, with Harry Reid being the majority leader from Nevada, and to the right, you've got Mitch McConnell, the minority leader on behalf of the Republicans. Now, 2 years from now, in 2012, the Democrats have a huge challenge in continuing to retain control in the Senate. Does anyone know why? 23 of the 33 senators who will be up for re-election, 23 out of the 33 are Democrats. That's a lot riding in those races. And that's why, as you start to see members retiring, some of those are Democrats who, either because of age or because of shifting political winds in their own states, think it's going to be a hard slog to get reelected. We have time now to just talk a little bit about the committees and the leaders who are responsible for them. Let's talk about in the House. These two men are the two top leaders of the House committee that oversees the Postal Service. On the left is Darrell Issa from California, and on the right is Elijah Cummings from Maryland. Darrell Issa is probably one of the most provocative, one of the brightest, one of the fastest talking members of the House of Representatives. Well, Barney Frank's probably even the faster talking, but when it comes, and probably right up there in terms of IQ. But Darrell Issa is one sharp cookie. And he, knowing that the Republicans were likely to regain control of the House, even last fall, started making arrangements for taking over the gavel of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. And he has been aggressive in the oversight that committee has thus far exercised. One, attempting to focus the national spotlight on mistakes or errors of omission by the White House, and secondly, by trying to move the Republican agenda. Elijah Cummings has attempted to hold the ground for the Democrats, and you've probably seen him a lot more on Fox, MSNBC, others than you have in the past. A leader in the Congressional Black Caucus, and certainly a very able, very capable lawmaker. He actually was picked by the Democrats to, even though Ed Towns from New York had been the top Democrat on that committee, Elijah Cummings was picked by the Democrat leadership to take over oversight and government reform from the minority side, mainly to serve as a counterweight to Darrell Issa. Mr. Issa, we will be seeing tomorrow, we'll be seeing a videotape because of him being from California and unable to be here. He recorded a message to us that we'll be hearing tomorrow, and so did Congressman Cummings. And it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say, because earlier this year, and even last year, Mr. Issa called the attempt to restructure our pension obligations a bailout. Wrong. He said that the postal supervisor ratio was as low as 7 to 1. Wrong. And NAPS both times responded publicly to call attention to the fact that this was misinformation, this was an inappropriate way to try to educate on the financial crisis that afflicts the Postal Service. And actually, when you bring that to the attention of a member of Congress, they actually appreciate it. Actually, they do. And we have a pretty good, darn working relationship with ISA and Cummings. Both regretted that they could not be with us tomorrow, but that's why they provided taped messages. Over in the House, we have also a change. In the House, as we move down to the subcommittee level, to the specific subcommittee that oversees the Postal Service, we have two lawmakers, a freshman from the state of Florida, from the Lakeland area. Dennis Ross is the top Republican and the top Democrat. There is, on the right is Stephen Lynch from Massachusetts. Mr. Lynch had chaired the Federal Workforce and Postal Subcommittee in the last Congress. A good relationship with Lynch, one that we're now building with Ross. We were assisted in building that relationship by our folks from Florida who went to, in the Lakeland area, a delegation of 3 folks who visited with Ross about a month ago, did a great job in educating him on our issues and why we need relief from the Congress to deal with our pre-funding and of retiree health benefits issue and why the pension problem needs to be solved in terms of the overpayment. We'll be taking a look at a tape that both Ross and others on the committee did from an earlier hearing that they had about 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to ask you to participate in kind of reviewing some comments that he made on Fox as well as in the hearing. Lynch is one of 4 House members on that subcommittee on the Democratic side, only 4. And tomorrow we're going to be hearing from 2 of the House Democrats, Jerry Connolly from Virginia and Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton. Over on the Senate side, Joe Lieberman chairs the full committee of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. If you're from Connecticut, you've worked with Senator Lieberman in the past. He has indicated he is not going to run again, so he is now a lame duck. Senator Susan Collins from Maine is the top Republican on that oversight committee, very actively engaged in postal issues. As you know, she was one of the authors of the 2006 postal reform law, and she continues to remain very engaged on our issues and is generally supportive. That relationship that we've built with both of those lawmakers is very much tied to our Connecticut and our Maine delegations, and we're appreciative of the support and the work that they're doing. And then as we drill down to the subcommittee level, the Federal Workforce Subcommittee of that full committee, we have Tom Carper, who's the chair of that committee from the state of Delaware. Here, our Delaware folks play an important role. And then on the Republican side, the freshman Senator Scott Brown. We're from Massachusetts. We're dependent upon our Massachusetts folks for building that relationship and continuing the good relationship we're building with Brown, who will be up for re-election once again in 2012. The last thing I have to suggest to you is what I call Moyer's Law. And that is, no matter how bad something is, Congress can always make it worse. And I say that not out of disrespect for the important institution that Congress is, but how much we find ourselves going back to Congress to clean up a problem that they helped to contribute from the very beginning to create. And that really lies at the heart of our first big issue of our legislative agenda, and dealing with the 2 colossal mistakes that underlie the restructuring and the need for restructuring of a principal part of the 2006 postal reform law. We're going to talk about that, and I know that the Postmaster General, I'm sure, will be talking about that as well. And do we have any word on how soon he's going to be arriving?
As long as 5 minutes.
Okay.
5-minute leeway.
Okay, okay. I want to, because I don't want to start to get into our issues agenda deeply and for us to start to train now on the specific issues and have to stop on that. So I'm going to just suspend right now in terms of going into the issues agenda and instead ask if there are any questions or comments, because we're here to learn from one another, not to listen just to Moyer, but to answer your questions and to respond to your concerns. So, yes, please, at the mic here.
Mac Littles, Branch 35, Philadelphia. It's not really a question. It's extremely cold in here, and we need to do something about this. Could we turn the heat either up or turn the air off? Thank you.
Thank you. Or sit a little more closely together. Do you want to take a break? What do you want to do? Okay. Okay. Doug?
Thank you, Bruce. Doug Phillips, Branch 72, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I know we've been talking about the $55 to $75 billion that we feel is owed to us. One question I have is when we go to Congress, we bring this up. That money was over a period from the 1970s paid forward. Obviously, if we get anything, Congress is not going to give us $55 or $75 billion right up front. Is there any type of a plan for a payback, or is that up to Congress to figure out?
That's up for Congress to figure out. We don't even need all that money at one point. It can certainly be spanned out. We'll be talking more about this later on this morning, but the heart of what we're asking Congress to do is to direct OPM, Office of Personnel Management, to recalculate the full extent, the specific number of dollars that were refunded using a different calculation method, and then secondly, to refund that through whatever way it wants to satisfy the Postal Service's future obligations to contribute to retiree health benefits. Yes?
Hi, Bruce. Mike Dyer,
Hey, Mike.
Branch 274, Fresno, Yosemite. I want to know, in applying my force, how much do you want us to instill the idea that we are a budget-neutral organization? We are self-sufficient.
Want to encourage you to do a whole lot at talking about the degree to which the Postal Service, that we have already eliminated 200,000 positions over the course of the last several years, the degree to which productivity has increased, the way that as we look at the quality of service, customer satisfaction has continued to remain high. I promise you, there is not another component in the federal government that has spent as much energy and attention in bringing down its costs and its personnel as the Postal Service. You really need to underscore that. You really need. That should be, and I think it is, a part of the 5 things to know about the Postal Service in terms of number 4, of service being at record levels. And then secondly, when we talk about issue number 1 and issue number 2, embedded in there is the degree to which the Postal Service has been a well-run operation. Can we improve? Every organization can improve. But definitely, we ought to underscore the fact that it was not out of mismanagement that we find ourselves in this financial crisis.